Hey, welcome to Bifocal. Today's show, we're going to be talking about CRM, but specifically talking about companies wanting to upgrade or migrate to CRM. So stay tuned. Hey, welcome back. Today's show is it's interesting because there's a lot of companies right now that are in this spot. There's companies that right now, in light of everything that's going on in the market, a lot of companies are moving to CRM, bringing it in for the first time. But you also have a lot of companies out there right now that are looking at better utilizing their CRM, upgrading, or perhaps even migrating to a new platform. I have Chris Finnecy, owner and founder of TrellisPoint, on, and he's going to talk about some of this because this is an area that he kind of lives and breathes in. So, Chris, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Dan. Appreciate it. Yeah. Good to be here again with you.
So the market is good right now for CRM.
Yeah, CRM has been a good space to be in. Technology in general has been good too. I think all over the country and world with everybody being at home, working at home.
Technology is good. I've had several IT people on, and technology is good for them.
I think we picked the right industry a couple of years ago to stick with. So,
yeah. Have you actually seen any uptick in business during this time?
Yeah, believe it or not, we are having an increase in business as we go through. You know, when this whole thing started back in March, we were very worried, right? Like everybody else, like what's going to happen? And we sat back real quick and said, okay, do we need to pull back? Do we need to worry about any new hires that we're bringing on? And ever since then, it just keeps going up and up every month, and we continue to see new companies and old companies wanting to do things with their technology.
Yeah. Are you seeing more of new CRM implementations, or people upgrading, migrating, and is that different than what you saw before?
Yeah, right. So we're actually seeing a little bit of all that. It's not one or the other. It's not just a true migration from an old system, and it's not just new customers coming on board, right? It's companies that have had a system for a long time that are looking at it and saying, hey, I need to refresh our system, or we need to do something different. We need the users to be more engaged. And then we have companies, the legacy companies, that have those old antiquated spreadsheets and data files sitting somewhere else that need to get a system. And so we're working with a bunch of different companies and different avenues to help them out with that.
Still running into companies that have no CRM.
Believe it or not, yeah, there are still those companies that just haven't had anything, or mergers and acquisitions where companies, some companies, they may have 3 or 4 companies that they're bringing together. Maybe 2 of them have a CRM system and 1 doesn't, and maybe those 2 are on 2 different platforms that either need to get into one common and get the third one into one of them, right? And work together to do that. So a lot of different avenues that we're looking at with organizations.
What do you think was the big push when COVID hit? Mm-hmm. Okay, you said earlier, we were a little worried. We didn't know what was going to happen, but obviously it's 180 from what you thought, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
Why do you think? What are you hearing from customers on why all of a sudden CRM is important?
Yeah, so they need to communicate with their people, right? Everybody's at home, everybody's working remote. Companies have come back in some shape, form, or fashion, but usually not 100%. And so what we see is the organizations needing to get that information into one spot and be able to see that. Whereas before they were able to talk to their employees maybe around the water cooler or in a conference room on a weekly session. And so they need the technology to store that information, where if they don't have that daily walkthrough in the hallway or somewhere in a meeting, that the manager or somebody can quickly get to that information and see what's going on. So they need that information to be available so that they can really look at it quickly. And disseminate, throughout the organization, so that before they would hand out sheets of paper maybe here and there, but now it needs to be electronic.
Do you think the customers are sensing more of an urgency to have data now?
Yeah, they want that information.
But why? Why now versus in the past?
Yeah.
Why do you think how are they looking at it differently today?
Well, they know that this is not going to change, right? That this world that we're living in is going to be like this for a long time coming forward, right? And they need to have that information available so that they can do things. So it's accelerating companies to what we call the cloud environment, right? Versus, they might have this information on a server, but maybe it wasn't accessible outside of the office, right? And so maybe they had a couple people that could get into that remote access. And so now bringing it to the cloud and seeing that information allows everybody to get to it and really review what's going on and really decide what should we be getting into as an organization. Are we on the right path? Are we seeing changes? Because things are not the same. The business model has changed, and companies need to be able to make that decision quicker.
And I think people have adopted that.
Mm-hmm.
I think they understand things have changed.
Yeah.
I think there was a period there when the pandemic hit, we were like, okay, let's see how long it lasts and we're going to get back to normal. I think most everybody, they've kind of adopted that, hey, this has changed. I need to change now, therefore.
Our customers, our prospects, they're like, hey, we know that we need to do something on this mindset, that we have to have technology helping us advance us. It's not just an expense to them anymore. Now it's part of the business, driving the sales, driving the revenue to the bottom line.
You made an interesting point. You just said it's not an expense
right.
anymore. And I think it's interesting. You laugh, but that's interesting, right?
You think about the old times. It's like, hey, this IT guy, all he's doing is costing me money, right? He's running around looking at laptops, making things happen. But
now he's MVP,
right? Because if these people aren't connected and they're not able to put their information in or share their information in, right? Then no one knows what's going on. So this person is very valuable to the organization to make sure everything's running smoothly.
Same with CRM. CRM was the Rolodex.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's my forecasting tool. It's my pipeline. I want to see what's happened in the past. I want to see what's coming around the corner.
What's the future? What's available to me? And not even just sales, but from the customer service side of things, right? So that I can react with my customers and I can say, hey, we have some issues that need to get resolved, right? Whereas before you might walk down the hallway and say, hey, John or Mary, we got this complaint here. We gotta resolve it right now. Whereas you're not seeing that person. So you put in an assistant customer service, put it in, guess what? And a notice goes out immediately to somebody that could be hundreds of miles or thousands of miles away. And that person can get notified and follow up with them.
And customer service now more than ever is important.
Major, right? And think of marketing, right? They want to get that data so that they can analyze it and they can say, okay, should we put a campaign out about this? Or should we do something different because now we're seeing a quicker response to something that maybe we wouldn't have seen previously?
I asked you a question a little earlier at the start of the show and I said, hey, are you seeing more migrations, upgrades, new? And you said, hey, kind of seeing a little bit of all of that.
Yep.
On the new side, new prospects you're talking to, new customers you're bringing in, they haven't had CRM. Are you hearing anything from them? Like, seeing any trends like they want this, they want that? Like specific things they're saying.
Yeah. Is it real specific? It's really about process improvement. If I look at it, because we know CRM is a tool to enable organizations, individuals to do better, to be better, to add value to the organization, right? To add value to the people that they're working with. And so when they're coming to us, they're saying, hey, we have this information. It's getting thrown at us. We don't have a single source of truth. And we need to have one area to be able to put this information in and really just look at it and say, okay, this is the trends that we're seeing. This is the information that's telling us what are the next things that are going to happen. So it's not just about sales. It's sales, it's customer service, it's making efficiency gains with everything. So it's really.
How about the people that are migrating, upgrading?
Yeah. So as we get into migration, right, there's a big concern about cost and how that impacts a project, be it from an old system or just from legacy data files.
But what are the reasons? Company has CRM.
Mm-hmm.
and now they want to migrate to a new platform. What are some of the reasons for that?
Oh,
what are you hearing?
Yeah. So it's they want to refresh their system, right? They may be on a 10-year-old system. So think of accounting systems or ERP. 20 years ago, they kind of, people had them for 10, 15 years. Well, guess what? CRM has been around 10, 15 years, right? 20 years with things. And so some of these older systems don't do what the newer systems do.
So you mentioned at the beginning, you said, hey, you got a lot of people that are implementing CRM for the first time. You said you got some people that are upgrading, and you said you got some people that are migrating. Are you seeing any particular platforms, solutions they're migrating from?
Yeah. So there's an older tool out there called SalesLogix. It's now owned by Infor, and it goes by Infor CRM. And we used to implement that tool, right? And
Is that where you started?
That's where we started from, right? When we started the company 11 years ago, it was SalesLogix.
But you were in SalesLogix prior to starting this company.
Yeah. So it's been around for 20 plus years. It's kind of like the original application out there. It's actually
it was big.
Yeah, it was a parent to Act. So people that knew Act, SalesLogix was built. And it was the one of the major players in there, and it got bought and sold over years, and it kind of lost its stature in the industry. And so we see a lot of companies that are on SalesLogix that need to get off of it, and they need to find an easy way to migrate from that platform to a more robust.
What are some of maybe some of the big things SalesLogix customers are running into where they're saying it's just time to get off?
Yeah, so just technology itself, because it was an on-premise solution. It was highly customizable, but it was you needed a pretty high-end developer to do the customizations. So when we go to Dynamics, Microsoft Dynamics 365, you just need a business analyst that is well-versed in drag and drop functionality, right?
That's big for a customer when it comes to support and admin.
It's huge. So when we have these old customers and these SalesLogix people, they need to get off of the information that data set. And migrate their information. So we actually built a migration tool to move from SalesLogix to Microsoft Dynamics 365 as effectively as possible, right?
Because you do a lot of them, and so you took the time to build a tool?
We do a lot. We had a lot of customers, and we knew that there was quite a few people out there that were going to want to move off of the system. And we knew the database of SalesLogix, and we knew the right way to get the information out and to move it in, and where you could have pitfalls, where you could have mistakes, where the information might be difficult to move this information. So our platform that we have, it allows you to move it very effectively and timely, without having to spend lots of effort to get that information over.
Well, if anyone's out there in SalesLogix, you guys would kind of be the place to go.
Absolutely.
I mean, you're probably it.
Yes, because we know we worked with it for over 15 years, that tool set, and we know it inside and out. And it also, not that migration tool that we also built, not only is for SalesLogix, but it also works to move information out of Salesforce.com. So we also, you might say, hey, that's not an old system. It's not an old system, but people want to come off of Salesforce because they look at the cost of Salesforce, right? And they say, hey, I need to get my data out of here. And if anybody's worked with Salesforce, they know that sometimes it's not easy to get that data out, right? They don't want to make it easy. So that tool that we've also built allows us to easily move information out of Salesforce as well. So
you guys have spent some time
developing a system
to help companies migrate.
Yeah. So when we're getting phone calls, hey, you know what you're doing. Yes. You've done this before. Yes. Tell us what it's going to take. So it's either we have we have like a gold, silver, platinum way of doing it. And then we have like a custom, because sometimes it's not just accounts and contacts and activities. Sometimes they have custom entities or custom tables, as people might know them. And we have a lot of experience, and we've done a lot of movement of this information over the years and understand what it's going to take to do this for you.
Is there still a pretty big market out there for Sales Logic customers?
To move or to use the system or to...
No, or is there existing users out there, still pretty decent market?
There's probably a good number of users. I don't know. I don't know the exact count, but there's probably over a couple thousand.
They're still relative in the market.
Yeah, they're still there, and it's known as Infor CRM now. So that they've modified it a little, but not what Microsoft has done with their solution. Yeah. So it's time to move. And it's the biggest cost for somebody there would be the data migration, and that's where we certainly can help out with an organization.
You're talking to a company, they have CRM, okay, regardless of what they have. Let's say you're talking to them though, and you run into the problem's really not the CRM. I mean, sure they could upgrade and get some new things. It's user adoption.
Yep.
Do you run in? Do you as a partner, do you see that the problem might be a lot internally versus externally?
Yeah. So we have this process or this analogy. It's a three-legged stool, right? And we call people the three legs of the stool are people, process, and technology, and all of that combined is what makes a successful implementation. It's people, process, technology. People, process, technology. So we're the technology arm of things, right? That's our organization. With Microsoft Dynamics 365, we bring in that technology, but we also bring in the process side of things, which is understanding what the organization is trying to accomplish. And that's a big part, because the process then drives what the people need to do, right? The people need to understand what the process is to put into the technology. If these three legs are not lined up and screwed tightly into the stool, as we say it, as simple as it says, then the stool is going to fall over, right? It's a very simple thought process of looking at it. So the people have to be aligned with the process, and the process has to be working in hand with the technology. Now, when we look at Microsoft Dynamics 365, that technology is there. It's set up for this. But if the organization doesn't have the process in place, then the people have no idea what they're doing. So when you talk about when organizations are coming to us, it's, hey, what is the process that is in place that we're going to put into the system, then that we're going to teach to the people.
You're a Microsoft partner.
That's right.
You're into Dynamics.
Microsoft Dynamics. Yep.
Okay. So you're out talking to a customer. Customer says, hey, I want to bring in CRM. Or they say, hey, I currently have this or that and it's not working. I need to change. I heard about Microsoft. Okay.
Yeah.
So now you're in front of them. What are you instructing them? How are you guiding them through this process?
Right.
Because obviously you want to make a sale, correct?
Yeah, right.
But you've been in CRM, probably 20 years or so?
Yeah, a little over 20 years now. Yeah, right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think your analogy of the three-legged stool is a pretty good one. The product is the product.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you walk them through so you have this successful implementation?
Sure. So we developed what we call the TrellisPoint success framework, right? And it's a number of stages that we go through with the prospect and or the customer, because it could be a current customer that we've worked with in the past that needs to come back with this. But it's different stages that we talk to them throughout and set up so that they will have a successful implementation or project for that matter. And the first stage of that is what we call the discovery stage. And that's just sitting down with the main players of the organization and just hearing what is their vision for this tool. What is their vision? And we could, in that discovery, find out that CRM is completely the wrong tool to be thinking about with what they're trying to achieve. And we're going to say, hey, you really need to have some other system. Or we're going to say, oh, okay, we get it, we understand it. And then we're going to then come back to them and say, okay, we want to put together a plan for you. And we call that our decide phase. And the decide phase could be anywhere from 2 to, say, 8 meetings, where they're usually 2-hour increments. So we're not taking up a ton of time, and we're working with the right people in the organization.
You're doing this decide phase after you've done the discovery to find out what they want.
So we're discovery, call it the 50,000 foot level, right? Where we're just kind of gathering all the high level components.
Is that simply for you to get some framework around?
Pull information out of them, because 9 times out of 10 they've not been through a process like this, right? So
you're challenging them to think about some things maybe they haven't thought about.
Yeah, they may just be coming to us because we have a pipeline issue, or we have a customer service issue, or we just don't have information. Okay, well, there's more to it than that, right? Are your sales down? Do you have a market problem? Do you have an employee problem? Are you mergers and acquisitions? What's going on? So we kind of gather that information. Do you have a systems problem, right? Do you have all these antiquated systems that, okay, you've got bigger problems than just, CRM, right?
Typically, what would you see in this discovery phase as far as, is this a hour meeting? Is this a 4-hour meeting?
Yeah, so we do this in 2 hours. Yep. The discovery is a 2-hour session where we sit down and listen. Usually, now we're doing it over Teams or some remote source. But we typically like to get into a conference room, get people and just talk through their technology, understand what they're using today. Do they have, are they using Outlook? Are they using spreadsheets? Are they do they have an accounting system? Do they have a quoting system? Do they have, whatever, a marketing tool? And gather all those core components that lead us into putting the decide phase together for them.
Okay.
So that discovery tells us, okay, we're going to have a huge project, or we're going to have a medium, or okay, maybe it's not so big. Maybe they just need those core Salesforce automation functionalities. So that really dictates the discovery. And we can, we've been doing this for 20 years now, so we understand what people are saying, even though they may not be giving us all the information.
Yep.
So that allows us then to put together what we call the decide. So the discovery is a no cost.
So that's
component.
Pre-sale
basically for us. But it's time. It's their time, right? And everybody hates to give up their time. So it's a no cost solution for them. Then from there we come back and say, okay, in the decide phase, right? There's going to be a charge. And it's somewhere between $2,500 and say $5,000 or $10,000. Depends upon what we hear in there. But what's great about that is we give it to it as a money back guarantee. In other words, that if we get through the decide phase and you say that I'm not happy with what happened here, then we give your money back.
Wait a minute. I want to make sure I understand. So you have this discovery phase, which you're getting a framework of the project, right? You're getting a scope of the project. Then from there, you're moving into another phase you call decide, but that's where you're going to start getting more granular.
That's right.
You're diving in now to find out what's under the first layer, second layer.
Exactly. So we're coming from 50,000 foot down to probably like 20, 25,000.
And you charge for that phase.
And that's a fee based.
Okay.
Yep. But what we've done is taken out any of the risk from the customer, because a lot of customers look at us and say, you're going to charge us to come in and understand our business. Don't you think that should be?
You just want to charge us.
Yeah. You just want to charge us. And the answer is no, we don't want to just charge you. We want to understand, because anybody's got to do this, right? They got to come in and understand your business and really kind of get a deeper dive in what's going on.
I'm assuming there's a benefit for the client to do this regardless.
Absolutely, because guess what? We're preparing a document that then they can take in essence and take it anywhere.
The decide phase is typically how long?
2 to 3 weeks.
Okay. And you have several meetings over that 2 to 3
That's
weeks.
right. Yeah. We try to do 2 to 3 meetings in that period of time with the right people. And it's not the same people in every session. Typically, there's a project lead from their organization that's in every meeting that leads, that gets the right people.
So you get to
together.
the end of this decide phase. What are you providing?
So then from there, we're providing the implementation process that will occur for them, and saying, okay, we will then rank what we've heard during that decide phase. So it's like different. We'll hear what the customer said. We'll hear what they think the impact is to their business, and then we put a ranking to it, right? So we may list 10 to 15 items in the decide phase, and the customer then ranks those with us. And then we then put our factor to it to say, basically, okay, some of these are bigger cost items, i.e. migration could be a big cost item, or different. Maybe there's
so you're at the end of this decide phase. you summarize everything to make sure that you and the client are on the same page.
That's right.
Okay.
Yep.
You're saying, hey, this is what I heard from you. This is what you said it was ranking. Is this accurate?
Is this true? And they then look at it and go, well, you know what? I said that, but I really didn't mean that, right? Because it's interesting when you put it down on paper and see that, and it's like, Or they're like, hey, we were dead on. Yeah, that made sense. We need account tracking. We need contact tracking. We need activity tracking. We need opportunity tracking, right? And they may reverse things around. But what we try to do then is with the priorities is that we're not doing everything in the first phase, right? We're looking at it and saying, okay, phase 1 is going to be this. Phase 2 is going to be this. Phase 3 is going to be this, right? We're not going to boil the ocean in the initial rollout. We're going to.
So the end result of the decide phase is what then?
It's a budget, it's a timeline, and it's a impact to your business.
Is it a document?
It's a document. It's a physical document that is prepared, right?
Do you give them a price then for the implementation?
That's right.
Okay, so they're getting pretty much a blueprint.
You got it, right? You could call it blueprint. We call it a statement of work, right? That people might know and say.
So where's the money back guarantee come in?
So if at the end of that phase, they look at it and say, you know what you guys just did really doesn't resonate with us, right? Through the whole process, then they can look at us and say, we're not happy. We want to walk away. And at that point, we'll say, okay, I would totally get it. Here's your money back for what we just did.
Wow.
Yeah. And what we found by doing this, right, is that the customer is invested in the process, right? And they really want to determine what is important to them. And by leading them through that, now some of them think, all right, well, do I really need to do this? And it's like, yes, you really need to do this, because if you don't do this, then all you're doing is going down a path that's probably going to fail. You're going to have the same issues. Yes, that's why we call it the TrellisPoint proven process, because it is something that we know that we have been through.
What if they don't want to go with you?
At the end?
Yeah.
I'm sure that's fine, right? I mean, it's obviously we want them to go with us.
Sure.
That's the goal in the whole thing.
But they're not locked.
They're not locked. Absolutely not. And that's definitely something we're open to that, right? As transparent as we can be.
What if they said, hey, we like your document, but I don't want to go with you?
So if they want the document, the full document, we'll share the document. If they want the document, then they still have to pay for the document.
Okay. But they're not locked in to go with you.
They're not.
They didn't?
No, yeah, that's absolutely true.
So it's really a no risk.
We've basically said, hey, you need to go through this process, and it will be successful for you. We know it will be successful, but if you're not comfortable in the beginning making that decision to put out a certain amount of cost or dollars, then know that you can get it back. And that's why, no risk in this whole process.
And then after that, if they go with you, you're into implementation.
Then we're into implementation, what we call design and delivery. So then we go through these cycles of, like I call it phases, right? Phase 1, 2, 3, where we're in the decide. We ranked all the projects that they might want, but we're not going to do them initially, right? So phase 1 may just be account and contact tracking. Phase 2 might blend in opportunity and quoting, right? And phase 3 may be customer service, right? So we go into these design and analysis and basically implementation where we use the quick approach, right? Of agile. It's not quite agile development for people that would understand, but it's getting things done into the system now so that you can see it, versus people have heard waterfall, where that could take 6 to 9 to 12 months. People don't want that. We want information now. We want to know that we can use the system now. So this approach allows us to get things into people's hands 30, 60, no more than 90 days.
Improves user adoption and people's excitement. And
they're using the system because guess what? You're paying for this software usually on a monthly cost, right? And you want to be able to use it, and you want to be able to get the value from it. And we want you to get the value from it.
Interesting. So as you're working with, what are some of the fears that customers share with you? What are their concerns when endeavoring down the
path of a project, right? So when the number one typically is user adoption, right? Users, I have this tool, they're not going to use it, right? Or it's not going to meet what their expectations are.
See, I would almost think the opposite of that. I would almost think they would think, oh, I just need to get this. People will use it.
Yeah, no. Think of a salesperson. A salesperson naturally does not want to put information in until they know that it's going to be a closed deal, right? And part of it, that the process that we go through is like, this tool is as much for you, salesperson or marketing person or whoever's putting it in, as it is for the organization. That if you really use the tool to your advantage, you're gonna meet your quota and exceed your quota.
You got to be able to communicate to the sales group. This is going to be a benefit to them.
This is going to be
they got to be a big part of that.
Yeah, and if they're not part of this, then we will not succeed in the implementation.
Yeah.
So that's a big piece of it. Another big piece of it is bringing, where is their legacy data? Because these companies that we're working with aren't, 1 and 2 year old companies typically. They're 30, 40, 100-year-old companies, right? And they have information all over the place, right? They could be in Outlook contacts. They could be in Access files. They could be in old SQL Server or Oracle databases. They could be in Excel data sheets, accounting systems, right? So getting that information in is exhausting because not only is it all disparate and all over the place, but there's duplicate records everywhere, right? And what is the source of truth? That is John's contacts any better than Mary's contacts? Is the accounting system better than the customer service system, right? And
which addresses the current.
And who should we have the main phone number as? So the data migration is something that we've really worked on over the years and really brought together for us and for the client, because there could be a huge cost with that. So we've really tried to work with the clients. We have a tool set, a data migration tool set that we actually have put together that allows us to make it as cost effective as possible. It doesn't mean it's the cheapest or the lowest cost. It means that it's going to be done right and it's going to be done on time and you're going to get the information that you want. It still takes time to do it though.
My experience in sales through the years, data always seems to be king. For some reason, people love data.
Yep.
Now, whether they use it, that's another thing,
Yeah.
but they love data. Do you see that?
Yeah, and if you store it properly, and you're not, you're not just willy-nilly putting it into the information, then it's good data. There's good data and there's bad data, right? And you want to make sure that you're storing it in a way that you can extract it so that it actually is valuable to you, not only tomorrow, but in 10 years, right?
Yeah.
To look at that information.
Well, you mentioned user adoption. You mentioned data. Any other concerns that kind of stand out? People are like, "Hey, this is pretty high on our priority list, and we're concerned about this if we go down this path."
Yeah, I mean, I think just in general, marketing efforts. How am I going to get my team involved? How is marketing going to use this information? How are people going to take the information that I put in and use it to our advantage to increase something?
You mentioned you've been in CRM for a long time. Years ago, CRM was sales. Now I just said, hey, these are two concerns. The third one you said was marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Marketing now is huge in this discussion now, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Because they're taking the data that everybody, so where do they get their data? They get their data from the people working with the prospects, working with the customers, working with the vendors, right? Yeah. And they are at the mercy of getting that information from them, right? They can't just walk into rooms and say, hey, I need this data. They want to get it from the source or from wherever they're being stored. So if we can make the system easy enough for the end users to enter the information in so that it's not painful, right? Then the marketing team can extract that information to their advantage and say, okay, these are trends that we're seeing, or this is information that we can gather that can actually benefit us. Or
I think years ago, salespeople used to sit back and rely on marketing just to send stuff. That was kind of whatever marketing did, they did in a silo on their own. And sales was sitting back saying, hey, you're sending anything my way. Today, totally different. they, as you just said, they're both very much depending on one another.
What we find is the marketing team is really an extension of the whole organization. If they're a silo, then they might as well walk out the door, right?
Yeah.
They need to be an extension of sales. They need to be an extension of management, an extension of operations, of customer service. It's not, they are working tightly with all of these different departments on each one so that they can say, okay, we need to focus here. Right? Versus, I'm not just going to come to you and say, this is what I'm going to do for you. It's, what do you want me to do for you? You know, the people saying, do this for me, and they need to extrapolate that information and grab it out of the source.
As a partner, your job, I think, would be much more difficult today than maybe 5 years ago, because, and you let me know whether you agree, because there's so much more integration into CRM today. Mm-hmm. The CRM, many people are using it today, where, as I said earlier, it was salespeople entering some things.
Yep.
Now you got marketing, that you have all the marketing automation stuff that's going on in the background, right? Marketing is depending on sales to be bringing in new data, current data, right data, updating data.
Right.
Sales is relying on marketing to nurture some of this data and get it a little more hot so I can use it.
Yep.
Right? Then you got all this integration with back-end accounting. And as you go through your discovery and your decide phase, man, you got to be talking to a lot of people now.
There's
departments.
There's a lot of that discover. That's why we do the meetings the way we do them, right? We want to understand the different departments' needs. Some may be higher than others. That's why we rank them. And what's the most value to the organization, right? That allows us then to pull that stuff together. Is it more difficult? I don't know if it's more difficult because we've been involved with it for so long. It's just evolved with things, so we understand what the information is. Is it a little bit more time consuming? Probably, because they think, oh, you're just going to come and put the system in and it's going to work and everything. Our sales are going to go up by 25%, right? We know that's the farthest from the truth. So the term CRM, or customer relationship management, that may be an old term, but it evolves over everything. It's not just.
It probably is an old term now, isn't it?
Oh, it's definitely an old term, but it still makes sense, because guess what? It's about the customer, it's about the prospect, it's about the vendor, it's all that information in one spot. So Microsoft will use customer engagement now. They've you'll hear the term CE, or customer engagement, for information. And it's not just about a sales or a pipeline. It's all these things together and deciding what it is. Integration to these platforms is another key component. And we've been doing integrations for 20 plus years using the technology, and it's gotten a lot better over the years with the information that we've been able to do, or the tool sets that we're able to use. So understanding where that information needs to come from, bringing it together into a visual presentation that makes sense to people. Because the other thing you can't do is you can't necessarily dump all this stuff into one database. There is going to be inevitably multiple sources of information, and that's where some reporting comes in. So using tools from Microsoft like Power BI, which would be their analytics tool, and bringing that into a visual presentation so that users can actually see it in a graphical sense that makes sense.
Interesting.
That helps.
In light of everything that's going on right now, what are you seeing from customers as far as, are expectations realistic? Are time frames realistic? Are you hearing from customers, hey, we need to go on this? How quick can we? What's that look like?
Yeah, we haven't run into too many of that, hey, I need this up in 30 days, right? I think the mindset, I think it goes back to part of our process to say, look, we're going to give you the right expectations. We're going to tell you the truth. If they may tell us, the first time we meet with them, hey, I got this. There's not a sales meeting happening right now, right? So it's not that's not a big rush or anything. But it's understanding what their real need is, or what's driving the force to implement this or to migrate to a new system. So setting the expectations, going through the process, and sharing with them, okay, this usually takes this amount of time. it takes this usually about this amount of cost, and give it to them up front so that they understand it without just a shocker.
That's pretty important to set that expectation at the beginning.
Yeah, it's like anything, right? You got to. If you do your homework and tell them and work with them, they're going to understand it. So it's not that difficulty is, I think, we're able to share with them the knowledge that we know and say, your time frame is going to be this. So
Sure. If a company's interested in bringing in CRM, what suggestion would you give that company on things maybe they need to do prior to bringing in CRM?
Yeah. It's, so a couple things. One is if you could look at your processes, right? What is your sales process? What is your marketing process? What is your customer service process? What is your onboarding process for different information? That can be very time consuming. And so if they can document it, i.e. put it in some Visio type of document, flow chart, right? Look at that and understand that's significant.
That helps you out as a partner coming in.
They give us a sheet and we look at it and say, okay, we understand the process. We understand what you're trying to achieve. We might not understand what you've written down here, but you can explain it to us a lot easier versus having to do it with you on that. Another one is the data itself. If they can get their data in-house, meaning they can get it together and understand where it's all coming from, it's amazing when we walk into organizations and they think that you can just bring all this data together and it just magically gets put into a system and there's no issues, right? Typically, that's when we start bringing that data together, that rises a whole nother level of issues and concerns and what do I do if this doesn't match or doesn't work, right? And that can be very, very lengthy with that. So if they could actually look at their data and decide, do I need all this data? Do I need 20 years worth of data, or do I really only need the last 3 years worth of data, right? Because
that's an interesting point.
It's great to analyze 20 years worth of data, but is it really the last 3 years? And actually, where we're at right now, is it actually the last 12 months?
I was just going to say, does last year really matter?
Right. Yeah. I mean, you can't predict that what's going to happen with that. So that's another core component. And then just know your users, right? Are they open to change? Are they going to be constrictive and say, I don't really want to do something, and kind of get a feeling of what you're in for when you introduce this. And sometimes I use the automotive industry. You're not just going to change things overnight, right? They don't change the car model like from year to year to year, right? Typically, it's a slow moving process for that. And it's the same with people. If you change this overnight, that you're going to have a lot of pushback, and it's the same with the systems. You're going to have a lot of pushback if people don't understand or don't believe in what you're doing.
Yep. Well, you brought up some pretty good points. I think the biggest thing I've heard from you so far is this is a process. We got to take the time up front to map things out. Mm-hmm. If you don't, you're probably not going to have a successful implementation.
Right. Yep.
And then you mentioned some other things there, that there are some things that customer should be doing on their own prior to a partner coming in, because if they do it all with a partner, one, that drives cost up because you're involved.
Right.
And when you talked about customers should identify their process ahead of time, that's not something you do in an afternoon.
No, right?
That takes time.
You need to invest in yourself, right? And it's not necessarily a cost of dollars out the door. It's a cost of your time, right? Yeah. And your time is valuable, and we understand that. And that's why when we go through our process, we are as concise as possible. It's like the infamous email that you get that's 4 paragraphs long. Are you really reading a paragraph? 4 paragraphs? You need to be concise. Get to the point. What's the issue? And keep diving into it, right? And that's our job, is to get as quickly to the root cause as we can, so that we can show you that there's value, not only in using us, but using the system and in changing things to allow you to be a better organization.
Yeah. Interesting. How's somebody find you?
So they can come to our website at www.TrellisPoint.com.
Very good. Well, hey, you mentioned a lot of good things today. and I know the market. I know personally from people I'm talking to, CRM is probably one of the big topics right now. Everybody's looking at it, right? They're either looking to upgrade, they're looking to bring it in for a first time, or they're looking to enhance what they currently have, add features, add in it, whatever. Everybody's talking about it.
Yep.
And I think you brought up some good things for them to consider in that process. It's been good having you back again. And I'm sure we'll have you back again because I don't think this is going away in the next 3, 6,
Right.
12 months.
No, this is great. And I appreciate it, Dan. And it's fun to share the thoughts and what people should be looking for and how we can help out and set expectations, right? People just need to know their expectations.
I think that's the key right now. Everyone's a little
jittery.
Yeah, set the expectation, right? Right. Well, hey, I'm glad things are going well for you guys.
I appreciate it. Yep.
Yeah, glad things are going well. Hey, thanks for tuning in today. I thought it was pretty good. I thought a lot of good stuff talked about today. If you're in that position right now where you're looking at reevaluating CRM, evaluating it for the first time, give Chris a call. He would love to talk with you. If you like shows like this, hit subscribe. We'd like you to follow us. If you have shows you would like us to be talking about, contact me, email me, dharsh@danharsh.com. I would love to hear from you. I would love to get some shows on that are personal to you. So, hey, thanks for tuning in today, and we look forward to you coming back.